Hi, this is Annie Grace, and I am answering readers' questions. And today I have a question from Tiara. She says, my question is about the joy and happiness of being alcohol-free. Even those folks who have been alcohol-free for a handful of years describe a level of health and optimism that is nothing short of amazing. I was fortunate enough to grow up in an extended family that did not drink, and I don't recall any of these teetotalers ever expressing such awe of life as those who have gone alcohol-free. Do these non-drinkers experience this same optimism, or do they just recognize it as normal? I think that's exactly it. I think that when you can imagine it, at least for me in my experience, it was sort of like breaking out of some sort of prison. I remember being for years and years and years stuck in this feeling of, oh, I just want to be drinking less, waking up the next morning wishing I drank less than the night before. Then I'd have those probably 3 to 4 hours of, from whenever I decided to start drinking, 5 p.m., 4 p.m., whatever, until I fell asleep, passed out at night, that I wasn't thinking those thoughts, that I wasn't beating myself up for drinking, that I wasn't questioning my drinking, that I wasn't wondering about my drinking, because guess what? I was just drinking and getting drunk actively. So I had those 3 to 4 hours, which half of which, by the way, I didn't even remember. And then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd have this hour of like kind of middle of the night self-loathing, beating myself up, hating myself for what was happening, completely, just losing faith in any ability or any trust that I had to make any choice or decision about this, because everything I tried, all of these rules I'd set for myself, just wasn't working. Nothing was happening. Nothing was working. And then I'd finally fall back asleep. I'd wake up in the morning. I'd feel physically bad. I know it had a lot to do with the alcohol. I'd feel emotionally bad. I'd feel frustrated with myself. And then by 3 or 4 p.m., I was looking forward to having a drink. But then I also had this dialogue about, but I wasn't going to drink today. Today was going to be the day that I drank less. I'm not going to do it. And then this back and forth until I finally made the decision to stop drinking. So if you look at this, say there's 24 hours in a day. Say I slept for 6 or 7 hours a night. And so you take that off the top, that's 18 hours. And say I was like actively drinking and drunk from like, let's say 6 p.m. till like 10 or 11 when I fell asleep. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's 5 hours. So 18 hours that I was awake, 5 hours of them were drinking or drunk. And part of that I didn't remember. So say 3 hours were when I was conscious enough to not have that mental pain around drinking because I was actively drinking and just saying, F it, I'm just going to drink. So 3 hours compared to 18 hours of being awake, 3 hours compared to 24 hours in a day. So like I was living the majority of my life in pain around alcohol. So when I stopped drinking, and when I stopped drinking without, by the way, desiring a drink, which was really the key for me, because if I would have stopped drinking, and it would have been, I'd stopped drinking before. I'd white knuckled it. I'd used willpower. I felt deprived and I felt miserable. So now instead of at least the 3 or 4 hours of relief, I was 24 hours of just feeling deprived and miserable. So that wasn't a good option. But when I went alcohol free, like the way that you talk about where most people, are going, where they've changed their beliefs around alcohol, they've changed their consciousness around alcohol, they've gotten this new understanding, they've realized it's not doing them any favors. And by the way, they like don't want it. When that happened for me, it was euphoric. It was like escaping from a prison. It was like having a whole new lease on life. It was as if everything in my life became new again. And no, I wouldn't imagine that somebody who had never had a drink in their life would feel that because they weren't in the prison to begin with. Now, I would imagine that they probably do have, there's a lot of things neurochemically that alcohol does to you. It actually steals your ability to feel joy. You cannot numb pain or stress or anything else that alcohol numbs without numbing your ability to feel joy and happiness. And that happens like on a chemical level in the brain. And so if you've lived your life never numbing that, probably certain things, like going to an amusement park or just like a really good night out with friends or amazing conversation is going to feel more joyful to somebody who is a drinker. But equally, then you get to the best possible situation where you're somebody who's been stuck in that prison, and then you're not stuck in that prison anymore. You are a drinker, but then you are totally free from it. And that is euphoric. That is amazing. That is when people are saying, oh my gosh, I have to shout this from the rooftops. I have to write a book about this. I have to start a podcast about this, because other people need to know that, gosh, we really don't need alcohol to have a good time. In fact, it's the opposite. And we just believed we did. And like, that's where you hear these stories of people just like talking about how incredible their life has been. But I totally agree with you. While I have seen, I have a handful of people that I know that have never drank, and they're very happy, well-adjusted people, by the way, but it's not this sense of like a point in time and bursting euphoria, because it wasn't really that they were stuck in prison. So if you had never been in prison, then, getting out of prison doesn't have any, you could look at it another way. The prison analogy kind of falls down there, but it would be like scratching if you're not itchy. And if you are itchy and then you get to scratch, it's like amazing. But if you're just scratching, it might feel good, but you weren't itchy to begin with. If you were itchy, if you were drinking to begin with, and then you get to scratch that, and then you get to solve that problem, it feels amazing. But if you weren't itchy and you just scratch, yeah, it feels okay. It's nice, but it wouldn't be the same level of euphoria. So anyway, that's an amazing question. Thank you so much for asking it, and I hope you have a wonderful day.